All right, you guys all ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. So, how's everyone? I don't know how to start this. Yeah. Good job.
Very professional.
Why don't you just start it off by saying like the idea of the video, like what the whole concept to start with? That.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome everyone to this post-weekend discussion on the first week of Bushiroad Springfest Online 2021. I am Kai, and then here's everyone else. Everyone else say hi.
Hi.
Hey.
And
Hey.
everyone except me and Weirab did pretty well at Springfest. So we can just like talk about how Springfest went, how we got there. You know how all the steps we took to get there, and you know just in general how everyone went. So first of all, let's talk about how everyone went. Do we want to go around the room, starting with maybe Derek on how he went? We'll go from the top if we're all watching the same thing.
Sure.
Yep.
So I participated in all three regions. So first was AO, second was Europe, and then the last was NA. I placed fourth in Asia, only losing to Toby in top four, and then coming in third in North America.
I guess we'll go Kelvin.
So I joined 5 out of the 6 tournaments in the weekend, with the exception of the NA Wise. Didn't do too hot on Vanguard, but apparently I won Wise EU.
Yeah, Wise
that's
EU
nice.
champion.
Austria represent.
No Austria. It's Australia now. All right. Mark, how'd you go?
Played in AO and EU for both WS and Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
In WSAO, I came 10th, so just bubbled out of top 8. And then I came 4th in EU WS.
Yep.
Losing to Vince in the top third and 4th place. So another Australian, which is nice. AO Vanguard, I didn't do too well, which is good. Gave me time to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to EU Vanguard, got into top 8, and lost to Mr. Maxime Solon.
Him killed.
All right. All right, Solon, how'd you go?
I participated in one region. It's all I need. No. and I got top 4, so I played in EU Premium.
It's a pretty good conversion rate there. And Toby, how'd you go?
Yeah, I did pretty well in the first region that I participated in, 1 of 2. So I got 3rd place in AO Premium, being able to just beat out Derek to take the prize card for that region. And then for NA, after I had a nap, woke up not feeling the best, and unfortunately didn't do as well, so I kind of dropped there.
All right. Where did you play in many tournaments as well?
What is it the last? Well, initially I was about to play in all 3 premium, but since I was watching a midnight football on Saturday morning, so Sunday morning, so I can't get to wake up on time for the AO. But anyway, just like as Mark did, it gives me like quite a lot of time to sleep, so I can wake up and play in the EU1 and also in the NA1. EU, I didn't too hot. I went X2 after round 4, and yeah, it's like a good experience playing in EU. First time playing in EU, definitely different style compared to the AO1. NA time zone is a bit pretty bad because I have work on Monday, so I knew right from the start that I wouldn't be able to finish the entire tournament. And I went to like X1 until round 5, and afterwards I dropped.
Okay. All right, that's cool. What do you guys think of the format for premium, at least?
It was messy. It was so bad.
Best format or best format?
Just best format. No, I think overall everyone agrees that there's like too many decks that don't let you play the game. But I also think that like too many people are too negative about it, which makes them not even test, and I find that
yeah.
lazy.
It's like
so,
they use it as an excuse, right? To
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we still set out, I feel, to we knew the format the way it was, but we still set out to try and make the best of it. And I feel like we ended up doing that. So we all had our own style of doing that.
All right, yeah. So I guess there's some things going around. What is this traitors versus loyalists thing?
Well,
Does someone want to explain? One of the traitors, maybe you want to explain?
Okay, fine. I'll start. Maybe Derek can finish or something like that. So the goal was we find the best deck and we play that. And the best deck was we found Fenrir Loop. We then optimized that list. We were still all on board. Fenrir Loop is best deck. We have the best list. It gets to infinite consistently. And then one night, I played against Noman, who had not been testing whatsoever. I told him, play New Edayo, and I went 0-5. And that's when I realized I'm not playing Fenrir Loop. Because that deck, while it is like incredibly powerful, if it bricks even the slightest bit, it is so fragile that it just falls apart. It's pathetic. And so at that point, I was actually last Tuesday, like 1 week ago, is when I actually made the swap. Because I just couldn't bear potentially the deck shitting the bed. And so I decided to play with my favorite deck instead, which is Grand Blue. So then I betrayed everyone who was playing Fenrir Loop. Toby. And then Derek probably has his own side as well.
Yep. So actually, it actually started from the very beginning. I skipped, I think, like 1 or 2 months. Well, at least the first majority of all of the testing with Fenrir Loop. And from what Solomon Toby explained to me, that deck is insanely powerful. It had the best win rate, best conversion across the board. It could beat literally anything. And then it got to the point where I got smashed with that deck. And then I just couldn't draw the pieces. And I was just super unlucky. And I just thought in my head, like, what happens if I get like super unlucky during the tournament that comes up, which was last weekend? So I questioned it a lot. Obviously, with the statistics that we went through, it just proved to be the best deck. And then I think one night, I was like, let's have a conference call. I think there were like 7 or 8 people. And I was like, so is Fenrir really the best deck? Because I really doubt this. And then everyone was like trying to put in their 5 cents, and then Solomon was trying to, brag. Oh, Fenrir was best deck, and this deck is so good.
That was the
trying to convince me, and that was an absolute lie.
Believed it. I still believed it back then.
Yeah, exactly. See, and I was like, this is nonsense. Like, I don't think this is. Yeah. And this call went for about an hour, and I was like, I'm not convinced. And then the one line that Kai said at the end of the 1 hour conference call, it was, you either play the loop decks or you play something that counters it. And I was like, maybe that puts into perspective what deck I should choose. So then I went MIA for about a week and a half, and that was like the one and a half week before Springfest happened. And then Solomon and Toby, they obviously tested against each other, and not knowing
I don't think
that.
We did.
Oh, you didn't?
Not as much as before that.
Yeah. But you guys still
both went rogue.
Yeah. So I think all of us just kind of like disappeared off the face of the earth. And then I essentially took the 1 to 2 weeks before the event to test out Pale Moon myself. And I was like, wow, I'm just like smashing everything left, right, and center until I saw Blade Master. And then Blade Master killed me. But it was like the only one deck that I couldn't beat, but that's because of the nature of the deck. There's like no counterplay to that loop deck. So I was like, oh, well, if I enter and I verse Blade Master, then see ya. See you in EU. And then I'll beat Solomon in EU, but that was not the case. So yeah, like I just made up my mind that I just wanted a deck that had multiple outs, different ways to play, and then just have to, accept the fact that the loops are unfair. And then if the loop decks give me one extra turn to set up, then I absolutely smashed them. So yeah, that was my
Yeah.
story.
And I think it's important to highlight that both of our decks have that goal. Like, if I check out my spreadsheet with my win rates, I demolish all the loops. It's just Brewfuss that I'm, like, terrified of. So, like, it's not like I could grab, I don't know, Victor and have done the same thing. Like, I picked Grand Blue because it's my favorite deck, but it also had the ability to play around these loops.
I mean, it's also like testing Among Us as well, which is like, the numbers are kind of skewed in a way where we all know each other's decks and know how to counter it perfectly, etc.
Well, you'd think you know all these decks.
Well, I mean, it's like it's not like a flex, but it's like when you go to a actual tournament, you're gonna find a bunch of people who probably didn't, who won't be playing optimally at that level or something like that. So the numbers could be better or something like that. But you know, Blade Master doesn't really care about that, right? But no, there is one person who stayed loyal throughout. I don't know how many months. Like, Toby, do you know how many months?
Well, we started testing in about January, so that comes in about 5 months.
Yeah, so he's been loyal for at least 5 months and stayed true to the path of Glepnir Loop. Why'd you just continue playing with it? Is it just you've been playing for a long time, or you know, it's the best deck?
Well, yeah. Here's the thought philosophy of like the whole premium experience format going in is basically like you have all the degeneracy on the top, obviously, the top level of all the loops. So either you stick to that standard and have to force to play the evil, or you play the decks that can counter the evil. That's basically what you sort of have to go into in terms of preparing yourself for the top level. If you can consistently have a top pick that can, you know, do well against those loops and counter, then that's, you know, a good choice for you as well. Specifically, you know, especially you have the preparation and the knowledge and the experience of the format, then absolutely, like, you see how it paid off for Derek and Solemn, like, with their mainstays, with the ability to counter the loops, it performed very well. And on the side of the loops themselves specifically, after all the testing of the runs and the initial, you know, building up and experiencing everything, trying to find optimal lists for each and every of the loop decks, it stands to reason that in our stats that Fenrir had the highest win rate out of all of them. And it was basically that main thought philosophy going ahead is, like, we had all these opinions, all these things we could say about the format and everything. But for me personally, I just went on pure statistics about, like, you know, the hundreds of nearly thousands of games that we had clocked up with, like, mapping everything out. So yeah, so Fenrir stood at the top of, like, being the most consistent in our testing bubble. And that was brought to a fact of, like, because things like, obviously, Blade Master rely on the fact of, like, hitting all the stands is basically pure RNG, right? You could stack your opponent into oblivion, or you could do nothing. That's not up to you to decide, it's for your deck to decide. And it's just like those combinations of things like Valkyrian obviously being very much in the same boat, that I really don't like those decks. Like, yeah, so basically, yeah, Blade Master I feel is very similar to how Near Nectar was back in the previous format, about how cheap it is to build and how easy it is to pilot. Whereas back in old 2019 format, you could kind of map out with Near Nectar about how its attack pattern goes and you know, play out for the turn. Whereas things like Blade Master and Valkyrian, you don't really know. They could, you know, trigger 100 stands or 0. Like, it's very RNG, and so, like, being a pick for those kind of decks, I really didn't feel confident in doing that. And so I feel that Fenrir with a consistent win rate was probably the best of the degeneracy side of the game that you could probably go with.
So one thing that's pretty interesting here is that if you look at the tops out of the 24 clans the 24 decks that topped the 3 different premiums, there's not a single Valkyrian.
Yeah. Well, it actually wasn't that popular, it seems. I think we only I didn't see it at all in AO, right? And I don't think there was probably any there. And we only saw one in EU. Well, there's probably more in EU, but you know, only one got streamed. But I imagine
I met one.
Yeah, I imagine it's just not as popular as Blade Master, because Blade Master has the denial, and it's pretty much the same idea behind it, and it's also cheaper. But also about the stats, you mentioned stats. Do you want to go over some of the stats for at least Glepnir Loop to say why it's the best?
Yeah, I think Solemn has most of our recorded data, but just going back to Valkyrian as well, more importantly, the fact that comparatively to Blade Master, Valkyrian requires a lot of pieces in setup to be able to actually effectively get to its loop, whereas Blade Master has literally zero counterplay to achieve what it wants. It's just discard 2 cards, which cannot be countered unless somehow you just mill all the cards from hand. Yeah, discard 2, hit that token, hit some stands, win the game. Valkyrian relies on the fact that you have to see Valkyrian early, achieve at least 3 force markers if you're running on the VR Uranus, and you have the sufficient Soul Blast for that 3 markers to be able to go off as well. And if you misride sometimes as well, you could just completely miss that. So, like, I think that's one of the main reasons why people were so heavy hard on Blade Master comparatively to Valkyrian, even though Valkyrian technically has the more consistent looping when it reaches that stage, but it's very difficult to reach that stage when good players know what they're doing.
I think also to add to that point, a lot of premium players, the ones that are on the high end of the spectrum, and then those that are less informed of the format, a lot of people now kind of take into the initiative of zero damage gaming. Not sponsoring anyway, but yeah, it's just a lot of people. A lot of people know to deny damage, and it might be in the correct way and the incorrect way. That's a different story in its whole. But going into a premium format, you don't actually know what the decks do. So a lot of players at the intermediate level will still damage deny, which really hurts Valkyrian because they need Counterblast to be able to generate those force markers. Unless obviously you draw like Double Decay and like Grade 3 Child Deck Uranus, then that way you can produce your force markers. But then outside of that, everything is kind of locked behind Counterblast.
Okay.
Yep. I also saw this very often when testing against Valk. My strat was literally swing under, and they're all 8 and 10k, so it's really easy. Columbard into a Honolly, and 90% of the time, either they don't reach loop, or the loop is not good enough because they don't have the 4th force marker. And you just, even going second, you were pretty fine.
Okay. Anyone want to share the stats for Gluttony Loop if we're done with Valkyrian?
Okay, I have it open here. So the overall win rate is 56.7%. Now, I want to say 56.7 sounds bad if you're not informed on how this works, but basically this is amongst WCC players only, playing optimal and against the best decks. So if you go, for example, to HS Replay, which is Hearthstone Replay, and it tracks like thousands of games, the most broken, insane decks ever have like 58% win rates. Because the way it works is those broken decks are going to meet other broken decks, and they're going to meet all these Legends players with these broken decks. So like when Galakron Shaman got an emergency ban back then, it was 60%. So like 56%, again, it doesn't sound high, but you need to add that context. 56 is very high. So it's 56 overall. Its worst matchups are itself, because there it's closer to 50-50, and Nuedayo, actually. And of course, Chaos. But beyond... Oh, also Grand Blue, actually. The Grand Blue matchup is horrible for Fenrir. You basically need to pray that they don't get their heals. And even then, the counterplay is just super tough. So it's worse matchups, but most people wouldn't play correct Grand Blue anyway, so it doesn't matter. So the only things you have to worry about are Nuedayo going first and Chaos.
There's probably something to mention as well is the fact that the decks that could sort of deny and go against Fenrir, they're sort of, obviously the Grand Blues and the Power Moons, that we also had to try and adapt ways around those decks specifically as well, because I'm pretty sure we didn't actually get to see those kind of plays during the weekend, so it's probably good to go over what we sort of utilized going ahead. The matchups for that.
Yeah. Just before we continue on to that, though, I think we streamed a couple of Toby's games in AO. Did you brick in those games, or was your hand not that good? Because I feel like we didn't see the full power of that of your of the deck when we were streaming it.
Well, some of the situations in the Swiss rounds, I think it was streamed twice in the Swiss. The first game that I was streamed on, I believe that the time I took to try and set up, I didn't have an optimal way to try and consistently push to try and OTK them. Yeah. But the way that I mapped it out to say that I could probably prepare the next turn, so to deny them the resources basically to be able to prepare then after is probably the best play from there. Is what I played.
Okay, right. Like, they were both against DIs, and I think you beat them. I think DI is like an auto win matchup for Genesis Loop, right? Or Glepnir Loop.
Usually, yes.
Usually it's like very highly rated if you completely
unless they get
deny
like
them
multiple
resources.
Bobos. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even Bobo doesn't do anything, right? Because that assumes that they get a stride, and they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, at least. Like from
yeah.
whenever we were testing, it's like they have to ride up first because you're not riding up first. Unless you're forced to, like Toby was maybe forced to in one of the stream matches. But generally, you can literally sit on 2. They can't NLK ride up anyway. So, and then they give you stride and you win. Or if you're really lucky and you have all the pieces, you can even like loop while they're on grade 2. So overall, whether they have Bobo or not, DI should be extremely free for Fenrir.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want to mention.
especially-
So out of all these decks that we've discussed, a lot of it, the conversation came on with decks are so potent these days, and you basically snap the game on turn 3 or 4. And what we're really filtering are decks that can really reach their maximum potential on those 2 turns, and the earlier definitely the better. And obviously there are decks that counter them. But Fenrir can function without CB. I think that's one of the greater strengths that it has. It has access to searching Zazan. You're not afraid to play vanilla triggers, and basically you have so many different pieces, but you can search any of them at will, just based on writing and so busting the right grades. And I think that's the primary reason why. So we sort of got into that. I can just sit here, deny damage all day, and just go 0 to 6.
And just in my personal experience as well, that that pretty much happened against the top 3rd and 4th match against Derek, trying to have the decider. Like, it actually wasn't really a whole much of a game because I literally just opened full combo and went infinite, going 2nd against him. He didn't have a chance to
prize card.
anything.
My prize card.
So,
I mean,
so that happened during the tournament as well, often than that. So the times that you managed to see the games was some of the times where that situation obviously didn't happen. But the deck can do that fairly consistent amount of times.
Yeah, you made him have to.
I think that's actually
region.
very important. I think it's very important to highlight that the list we ended up with, and that we all like pulled our ideas into and optimized, can reach infinite without CB going first extremely consistently. I mean, okay, so like, what was the data eventually? I think it's like 27% if you don't get a single damage, and you go first and you didn't even swing.
It was lower than that. It was closer to 20%, but still, that's
okay. And then you like full infinite loop, but you can still win without like going to infinite. So the fact that the list we ended up with was able to just play the game even when your opponent never got to play the game was a really big deal. And there's a lot of Fenrir lists that simply can't. Like they require CB or they require your opponent to ride up.
Yeah. I just also want to say, like, a lot of the conversation sort of stemmed from the Gold Paladin list that we built last year. It's sort of like, if we pile up all these great ideas and build a deck that will win no matter how like hard the situation is, that's gonna be like the best deck to play, or so I thought. And definitely with the release of the Overtrigger coming in, like, oh, you can build a super amazing deck, but you might just get caught by that, one Overtrigger expensive. So let's build something that gets around that, and Infinite's the way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Like that was a big deal as well. Like picking the decks as well was the fact that we had Overtriggers in the first premium format as well going ahead, and like some of the other loop decks could like lose to the Overtrigger just with the RNG, how the Overtrigger operates, whereas Fenrir obviously can overtake it and not worry about an Overtrigger and just say, oh, okay, you got an Overtrigger, but I declared my power to be 300 trillion, so unfortunately it doesn't reach that threshold that I have. And so like I'm pretty sure that was showed by example of like I think Muhammad's top 4 game where like Gastia was ready to one-shot Genesis, but Genesis hit an Overtrigger and ended DI's turn. Like that's just the state of how the format is at the moment and how the mechanics are kind of.
In case of our team, we've got Mr. Solemn Vanguard winning against New Dio.
That was a nice moment. So
You earned it. You earned it. You built that field, and you sort of baited into the play. The one out.
thank you. So essentially, I knew that I did not have. Well, I think she healed, so she was at like 2 damage or something. She was too low damage for me to kill her. And I knew that, so I was like, either I build a field of Skull Dragon, Nightstorm, do my typical plays, and then push her to 5 and die next turn, or I make a field that has the potential of making me live, and she's gonna have to take damage when I attack anyway. So that gets me further. So I built a field of 2 heal triggers, an over trigger, and a Honolly, which meant that if she wanted to use the Hyuga bounce skill to like put all of that in deck, either she gives me my over trigger and my heals back in deck, giving me the potential to live through her turn, or the Honolly stays on board, in which case I also live through her turn. So by making that board, I at least gave myself the potential of living in both situations, even though one of them is more luck reliant than the other. It was the only out. And then, yeah, she pushed all of the cards to deck. I hit my over trigger on 6, and that made me live. So it was fun.
Back to the discussion before about getting around denials, though, because everyone and their mum was playing, Denial Griffin in like Blade, well, nearly everyone. But a lot of people were playing Blade Master because it has Denial Griffin, and then you have people like Derek and Solemn who play Skeletal Cannoneers and Tricky Assistants, and you have Kelvin who wanted to play that but didn't. But
Well, actually, I have a story to share.
Okay.
During the deck development process, we were like, all right, this meta is so scuffed. We're looking through all these loop decks that just like not let you play the game, and maybe there's like, denial's definitely the answer. So I was like trying to build like a scuffed Grand Blue list that just survives through all these loop decks and nuke their loops. Felt pretty good. The test results were actually quite alright, and I was just using it on my locals. I think they won quite a bit with it. And it got into the big WCC conversation night. The one with like 9 people on it, and it was just like, bro, you can't not afford to play Fenrir Loop. It's the best.
it's the best. It's the best, guys.
Gold
Alright.
Paladin of 2021.
Playing Grand Blue, and then he comes a traitor.
And I bought so much into that. I actually bought a Genesis deck like a week after that with everything.
Wow.
And Mark bought a second copy of it. So we have 2 exact identical decks right after that conversation. I was
Wow.
expecting you guys in the team.
Right after
The
that.
thing is, like, it's very important that I was still on the Fenrir train at that moment.
Yes,
Like,
yes, we know that.
I was
The
really...
one is my Fenrir pieces arrived on the Friday right before the tournament.
Like literally a few hours before.
So another thing, just to note about the conversation too, is that the arguments were correct in that assumption to say that in all testing, Fenrir had the highest win rate. It's basically straight facts, and that was the argument.
Yeah.
Pushing forward, that was my reasoning. So
And I built in statistics, Toby.
understandable.
Yes. Like, the reasoning for me and Derek, I feel, is still more so an emotional argument than a rational one. It's just like the fear of the deck shitting the bed. But
Bro,
usually...
I threw away my emotions.
I think one
And
way
you
to look at
won
it,
twice! So...
No, but I probably didn't top Vanguard because I played Wise. I was playing, what was that? How many hours of it? I don't know, from like 10 a.m. to like 3 a.m. It was a lot of rounds of Wise, and I never played like, I don't know, 4 rounds of Wise in a day.
Holy hell.
But yeah.
back to the topic of Fenrir, I think one way to look at it is that while Fenrir has the highest win rate, it's more of a deck that, like, if we all take it as a team, then it's got the highest chance that we'll have, maybe 5 out of 8 people topping. But it might not necessarily be the best deck for the individual team player themselves if they want to make sure that they are the one topping it. So in that sense, I guess Derek and Solom just decided to take a deck that they're more comfortable, knowing that they probably have a higher chance of themselves getting that specific top.
I think
they
also
did.
to
Would
add
your-
on to that, I think also to add on to that, like Mark said, Fenrir, I think if collectively you bring it right, it becomes a deck that tops, but not necessarily a deck that wins. Only because there are multiple occasions where you can brick, and then say you versus Nuedaya going first, you get ramped or something like that. So it's a deck that is more prone to mistakes and unintended situations, whereas a deck like Grand Blue or Pale Moon might be able to survive something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's
So,
just the unfortunate part of the argument is that like that can be used reverse either way. Like you
Yep.
could say that on the flip side, like we could take something more consistent, more solid, more streamlined in the fact that you're always going to be consistently doing what you want,
Mhm.
and you still have the opportunity just to lose a dice roll and get blown out by some of the other loop decks or newer dios that hit all their Hoams and everything too.
Yeah.
That's just the unfortunate state of the format. There's not really anything like that could have been done about it during the tournament
Yep.
experience that we went through, but during how scuffed that sort of setup was, you sort of had to take your battles and decide which avenue you wanted to take. Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, actually, I have a
So-
slight one to add there. So I think the internal testing that we do also plays a part into that, because we play decks that are super optimized, plays that are super optimized, and like, oh, if you're against New that goes first, you're just gonna get stabbed in half no matter what deck you play, anyways. But in reality, the whole tournament's not like that. So in a sense, playing a more resilient deck might give you better chances than playing something that's like basically a glass cannon.
Yeah, so basically, Traitor joke wise, right? I kind of want to give prop to Derek and Solom, basically, bringing their comfort deck into this tournament. Because I don't know if you guys remember or not, ever since like probably like Worlds 2018 or Worlds 2019, I always said to everyone, right? If you're not comfortable playing with your meta decks, right? Whatever's in the meta, like back then in 2018, where Kagero were like in the meta, I was always saying like just play whatever the deck that makes you most comfortable with, right? Or like just play the deck that counters the meta. And as everyone said, like Fenrir is really prone to breaking, and if you don't play it like quite often, you will still like misplay it from time to time. And there's like gonna be like more than 12 hours of playing in the entire day. Yeah, Fenrir is like a deck that requires a lot of thinking. Some bit of like misplay definitely will cost you like the entire game. I played Fenrir since not Fenrir, but like Genesis since like late 2019 and until now, which like more than 1 year, I still do like minor misplay from time to time, and I might not be testing with all these all the team members probably like for the past like 5 to 6 months, but yeah, I've been like playing with myself, like playing by myself using the E1 build, which is something similar with the OS build too. So yeah, like in terms of testing, I think everyone's like testing optimally until this point. And yeah, like props to Derek and Solon once again to bring in like what they like they're comfortable with and helping with it.
Despite being Judas.
Yeah, I mean like
Dude,
Traitor meme aside, right? Like I mean, at the start of the tournament, I don't even know like what decks you guys are going to bring. I just assume that everyone's playing Fenrir, but when I see like Derek's playing Pale Moon and then Solom's playing Grand Blue, I'm actually like totally fine with it. But it's like trying to like go along with the Traitor memes. It's just fun.
Yeah, of course.
It's,
Yeah.
you know what's really funny? Like when I saw you play Grumble, and that was like after I woke up. Like they reopened the registration a few days before the thing started.
Mhm.
I actually already sent out a Grumble list. And the deck's just right there staring at me. I was like so close to playing it. I was just gonna laugh myself.
is
to
that,
see like
is that
Derek
Grumble
and
list?
Calvin.
is that Grand Blue list is something that started with T and D?
No, it's not that one. It's not that one. That's a different topic altogether. We're still missing cards for that.
I mean,
but...
if Mark didn't get his deck, he was gonna play something else, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's true.
It's a very spicy deck.
Well, we all know what it is.
And like, to be honest, right? In this premium Springfest tournament, we can sort of try like a different decks for like the different tournaments, because we have like 3 tournament anyways. If like someone gets to play like all 3, so let's say like someone can play like Fenrir in AO and then change to like their comfort deck in EU or NA. Like it's totally doable. So
Okay, that's pretty cool. Apart from that, what do you guys think of the tournament? It should be a lot of you guys' first remote fight tournament, right? How did it go?
WS remote fight on like locals, but nothing. This is the big official one that everyone has.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think in terms of the whole experience, I think some regions were better prepared than others. I just felt that AO was very organized, very professional. Obviously, the judging staff was probably better than some of the other regions as well. But overall, I think Bushiroad giving us the opportunity to be able to play in the state of the world at the moment, and to be able to play, a high level of Vanguard through remote fight is amazing. Obviously, there are some issues with like organizing the tournaments, judging, and obviously because it's remote fight, there are things that you cannot control from the other side of the board. But otherwise, the experience was fun. Everyone enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure everyone was really tuning into the streams and stuff. And yeah, just big props to be able to host something as big as this in the world at the moment.
Yeah. I also want to say EU was very well run.
Yes.
Like from the start to finish.
Really love the whole EU Discord bot thing. I thought that was like really cool. It was super smooth. It was straightforward, easy to use, and that's helpful. Being able to have like less stress on you might stuff up the tournament just takes off that stress from you. Even we go through like so many different rounds, and also really like how they do the streams on AO and EU regions. I think it's really cool idea. Just go into whatever tables that's on, just have an ongoing something always going on the screen, and the chat's quite lively. And obviously we have our internal WCC voice chat. That was the best moment for more than a year, I'll say.
I think the internal chat has been pretty cool because like it surprisingly has brought a lot of people together. Normally we're kind of more segregated just because of time zones. But since everyone's playing every single tournament, right? Yeah, I assume you guys all are.
No sleep.
Everyone's awake.
Yeah, the voice chat never empty. And if I want to add something on EU as well, I'm not sure if the AO also did that because I wasn't playing in AO, but start of the tournament, basically like all the judges and all the team members like gathering everyone, and it's like we
missed the players meet.
Players meet, like the standard nets of BSF that usually had in real life, and yeah, I think it was pretty cool to do it.
I think it's like moments that you miss, but you didn't know you miss it until you had it.
Yeah. So
like
maybe important. Oh, sorry. You want to finish?
No, that's fine. It's fine. Continue.
Okay, so maybe important for people who don't know. Essentially, we had a voice chat where all of us would go in and out depending on if we were done with our rounds. So you basically had the same feeling, I feel at least, as at Worlds, because there we all, like, also a lot of us were together and so forth. So you could say like, oh, I just lost to this, or I just won this, or oh, I got so lucky, so funny. And you're just hanging out again with everyone at once. And so that like camaraderie and also just like saying to your friends like good luck and so forth, and everyone vanishes, everyone starts playing, and like that was a really cool competitive vibe.
And I think like this thing is like something that we can't really get in real life tournament because obviously each regions of us like having like a different days. EU has like their own weekends, NA and AOS on their own weekends, but here because it's just like being piled up into like one big day, so everyone's like joining in chat together, like the NA dude and the AO and EU dude as well. So Yeah,
It's
it's
like
a solid hit. Yeah.
I mean,
It's like-
even at Worlds, right? Although a lot of us do make it to Worlds, not everyone makes it to Worlds. So this one, you can talk and meet with people that we might not see that often, or didn't meet like that last few years or something like that. So it's actually pretty cool. Though I don't get to participate as much. I only get to
Washed
participate
up,
with,
no.
yeah, washed up. That's right.
I didn't even qualify, so I can't say shit.
But you were still there, so
you still got on the stream on top
That's-
4 as well.
But yeah, for me, I think like I was actually like, quite not a fan of like this entire remote fight thingy. I was having like my job, and I was about to join probably like only like few days before the registration opened, and so
Huh?
I think that's good evidence and reason as to why we had remote fight.
He had his doubts, and his doubts were confirmed.
It's Exhibit A about exactly why it's a bit
This is how-
difficult for him.
it's
Is this the doubt you have?
in the internet. I mean, that happens.
That's game lost, bro.
Third world countries. So anyway, wasn't expecting to join the remote fight tournament, but it was like a pleasantly surprising experience. Obviously, it wasn't as bad as I thought before. Meeting like people from EU and having like a chat with like these players, like, oh hey, you were like these guys, like yay, finally you get to meet you, stuff like that. So it's pretty a interesting experience, I said.
I think to add on to that as well, obviously there are some players that you don't actually get to see from different regions, and not all regions stream their their nationals or their Springfest or their BCS. So to be able to have something online for the people watching at home, and obviously the ones playing at home who can't travel to real life events, for them to be able to play in the comfort of their house, it's a big thing. And moving forward, I really hope Bushiroad provides tournaments like this, so that the whole world can kind of interact with everybody else who's playing, and watching the streams and stuff is really good.
I mean, I think
Yeah, not
Yes,
replacing BCS.
yeah.
No.
It's not
Like
replacing it.
accommodating
Addition.
addition to it. Yeah, I think a lot of people were like kind of skeptical at first, but after they've joined it, there's like been a lot of good feedback. I'm like, we finally had some fun. It was really enjoyable, etc.
You can have something like summer and winter circuit.
I mean, let's be honest, playing in your pajamas, it's really fun.
I'm not sure if fun is the right word, but sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
think,
yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's. Is there anything else that we wanted to add? We're approaching.
Yeah,
really-
so I was just gonna say on the topic of just like the remote fights and the region themselves as well, like, just giving some of the regions the benefit of the doubt in the first weekend, because for like most people hosting it's a totally new experience trying to adapt to a remote fight and getting a gauge on how to operate these things properly. So, the AO and EU were pretty good on that regard on the ball in the first try. NA, we had to wait quite a while until they sort of got their resources and things together, so that was a bit shaky about how players felt confidently going into it, about how to feel about the tournament itself. So I kind of have higher hopes going ahead for the next weekend, for NA and even the other regions, that they're going to do an up and beyond better job than the last time, because obviously Premium and Weiss were kind of like, the first initial trial tests about remote fight and getting the gauge on things. So, I think the next weekend's going to be a lot more exciting than the last.
I mean, Premium and Weiss are also the lower caps games, while going to next week got Standard and V Premium, which are just absolutely nearly capped out for probably every single region, like, which is crazy. So they're pretty much gonna get their boots on and get ready to get ready for the grind.
Well, you have to get ready as well, because you have to come at like twice as much rounds.
Yeah, but it's overdress, man. It's always fun.
Exactly. It's the real tournament overdressed, dude. I can't wait for that one.
What did Weerup say before? Overdress is.
I think overdressed better than premium. Well, I'll say that.
No.
People are not even
This
going to
is from
catch
the
your
great
sarcasm.
Weerup himself.
Weirab has
the
only
biggest
been
traitor.
testing. Weirab has only been testing overdress. Apparently, he hasn't even been testing. Premium.
Yeah, I actually didn't test premium at all. Like I only like talked to Mo Abu Malula like a few times here and there, discussing our deck list, and that's it. That's about it.
Maybe that's why you
The
didn't
rest,
top.
I mean, like no practice means like no tops, right? And that's like pretty much true for everyone.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's
I mean,
that's true.
I didn't practice, so I didn't top. That's easy as that. Although I will say that if I keep playing in NA, I probably would have topped.
Save that for next week, buddy.
Lucky. I mean, unlucky. It had to be on Sunday. It had to be on Monday, right?
Take my day off.
All right, is there anything else we want to add to this?
Blue best deck, let's go.
Okay.
Grab Blue best deck.
Traitors gonna trade, man. That's all it is.
It's
Whatever
fine,
that
Toby. I believe in Genesis still.
means. Yeah, sure
Yeah,
you do.
we got the mainstream.
And it's it.
Yeah. look at
Hey,
that
maybe we
face.
should ask our viewers like what team they're on. Are they on Team Loyalists or Team Traitors?
Oh,
fair.
honestly, if I had to pick myself, I would be on Team Loyalist because like I would not want to pick Degeneracy, but like you know, you can't-
Well,
Wait,
You gotta
which
play-
one
you
is the
gotta play-
degeneracy here?
Hmm?
Which one's the
Like the
degeneracy
weak
here?
decks, obviously, like Fenrir, Nuidio, or you know, everyone considers the Degeneracy. Like technically, Fenrir is on Team Degeneracy, and I don't want to be on this team, but I have to win. So
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah.
The
By
villain.
the way, yeah. So Kelvin actually won Europe wise, and I can show you the secret on how to win your tournaments. Is you have a great chicken meal brought to you during the tournament, and you just win. So
Oh, is that it?
yeah, someone paid good money for that chicken.
So you have things like the caster's curse and the caster's blessing.
Yeah,
That's the later one.
So get someone to bring you a chicken meal, and next week you're gonna win. You're gonna win your regions, boys. That's
Yep.
that's the
Oh.
secret.
All right.
After I found out about that, I was so cut because I didn't get the chicken meal.
Yeah.
So
it was so
I think we're gonna
close.
get Uber Eats next week.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna test the theory, right? To see how far does it go. Does McDonald's delivery work?
No, but McDonald's uses bad chicken. It has to be
Oh,
top tier chicken.
right, KFC.
KFC.
Oh well.
No KFC for Weirab.
Well. Confirm McDonald's won't ever sponsor us because we shut up them in the stream.
Oh, damn.
KFC, I guess. All right.
Okay.
I prefer McDonald's actually, so
Oh really?
hit me up.
Wow. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add, or should that be a nice wrap up for the first week of BSF Online? We're gonna have a big one afterwards next week, because that's just the end of the whole thing. And we'll have maybe an after party in chat. I don't know how that's gonna work. Yeah, we'll think about it. But...
Yeah. For me, I just want to say thank you to my internet for not DCing like a single time during a tournament. It DC once in this stream, but I guess that's a different matter. But what's important, it doesn't DC when I'm playing. So yeah, thanks my internet. Hopefully you'll do the best for me as well next week.
I guess I'll add something else. I know a lot of people were watching through the AO stream and then the NA stream as well. And I know that there were a lot of people who really enjoyed the games that I played on stream. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to you, all the viewers out there and all the supporters that supported me, and as well as all the other WCC members out there. So it means a lot for us, and just continue to support us.
Oh damn, I also need to shout out Noman. He was really mad that I shouted him out in the comments rather than in the video itself. So shout out to Noman right here, and that hopefully makes up for it.
Actually, I want to give one more shout out to Ken Takahara. The guy went for casting on day one, and because we didn't have anyone who would play NA wise, he would just like tanked through and went through a bunch of energy drinks and got to top 8, which is really impressive. There's nobody around at that time. Got it, and hey, we have our gauntlet.
It's, it's an Australian Weiss thing, man. Like
Yeah.
5
We
a.m. Weiss.
got a top in every single tournament. That's great.
It's good.
Consistency.
hell.
And we're gonna do it again next week.
Just wait.
Well,
Whenever,
we'll try it.
whenever. Mark, anything you want to say?
I'm good.
Lastly, Toby, what about you, the ultimate loyalist?
Yeah, just looking forward to this next coming weekend. Especially with all the player caps already being met, I think it's going to be big and exciting. Just to see how our first D series tournament officially for Global will be shaping out. Like to see, like at a good chance of our first competitive statistics, I think it'd be really exciting to see what decks people will choose to be popular, what decks people will choose to think they'll be the strongest. I think there'll be different people on either side, but the top cuts I think will show some of the good stats for that.
And I think just adding on to that, it will be the first big overdress tournament global, like throughout the entire world, even Japan, because they haven't done a big tournament yet. So it should be pretty massive. And you want to go check it out, go check out the Busherud Springfest online website. They'll have all the details. And yeah, we'll be there. Some of us will be playing, some of us will be asleep, and some of us will be casting. So hope to see you guys there. And I think that should just wrap it up, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
See everybody. Do your sign.
Bye. Yeah.